her last day. We didn't do anything.
But it's not her last day. Baruch Hashem.
Not really. This is
Okay, here.
Hannah Reuben. Yeah. Hannah, you're the best. Okay. That's everybody. All right. We're on page 128. 120. Chapter 8. We're starting a new chapter.
Good.
So the main thing that we learned last day was the power of tshuva. There are many levels of trouble that a person can get into. And tshuva takes you from one level back up. So things you did on purpose, you're angry at Hashem for whatever reason, or you're angry at someone who's trying to encourage you to do a mitzvah, and you do it, you're going to do the transgression anyway. So you do tshuva on that, and you decide next time you're going to cooperate, that goes up to something not you did deliberately, something you did by accident. I met a young man a couple of years ago, it was 2 years ago. His name is Pikarsky. He lives in Paris. He's an American. He married a French girl, lives in Paris. And he does mitzvahs in the Jewish area. A lot of the people come to the Jewish area are tourists. Isn't that funny? They live here in America. They have a Jewish community. They don't participate in it. They go to Europe. They want to visit the Jewish community. It's called the Pletzel. Pletzel's Yiddish. Guess what it means? The place? Pletzel. So we were walking back from shul, I think it was on Pesach, because he came here to visit his family. I said, tell me a story from your shlichus. He says, one day I was in the Pletzel, and I see this guy looks like an American, and I asked him would he like to put on tefillin. He said, yes, like that, very excited. And we put on tefillin together, and it was very emotional. And I asked him afterwards, why were you so excited about the idea of putting on tefillin? He said, because I work in Manhattan. And one day I was rushing to a business appointment, and one of you guys stopped me on the street and asked me if I want to put on tefillin. I said, I have no time. No, I said, I'm not Jewish, something like that. And then I went further and I thought, what did I say? How could I say that? And I went back to look for him and I couldn't find him. Yeah, so that's how the conversation began. You didn't ask him to put on tefillin. You asked him, are you Jewish? And he said, yes, I'm Jewish. He says, since then, I was so filled with regret that I denied the fact that I was Jewish. I couldn't wait for an opportunity to say that I'm Jewish. And I never had one. People would ask me, do I want to put on tefillin? I'd say, yes, I'd put on tefillin. But you're the first one after how many years? I don't know how many years. I don't remember. But somebody asked me, are you Jewish? I could say, yes. And you know the relief that he must have felt to be able to clean up that blemish in his spirit. Because he was in a hurry, he wanted to get to his meeting. Like, don't bother me. But you know, why did he say no? The real reason is not because he had a meeting. The real reason is because he has the Yetzer Hara, and the Yetzer Hara covers over the emes. That's what you learn in Basar Lagani. The Yetzer Hara covers over the emes and makes you think that no matter what you do, you really are connected to Hashem anyway. And then, okay, so now you can do everything that's forbidden. And that becomes the excuse. All right. So we were learning that tshuva corrects all these things like that. That could become something. With that, yes, he cleaned up everything. From now on, that person, if he's ever asked that he's Jewish, he's going to say yes with a fire. You see, so that's how tshuva transforms a positive, deliberate transgression into a big mitzvah. You bypass all the intermediate stages. The intermediate stages are to go from a deliberate transgression, shoshana, welcome. Glad to see you, always. Did she hear that? She heard.
Sure.
You heard? I said I was glad to see you as always. So tshuva will transform a deliberate transgression into an accidental one. It will transform an accidental one into nothing. You didn't do anything. How's that possible? Because you did tshuva. Tshuva retroactively can change your life. Just don't go back. Don't do it again. If you do it again, that's a surest sign you never did tshuva. Never repented. And that's what the sages say. The wicked people are always doing tshuva. Why? Because they're always sliding back and then feeling bad and repenting and making a decision that they're not going to do a transgression ever again, but then they do. Because the tshuva that they do is not strong enough for them to totally disengage from whatever attracted them to this particular transgression. We're going to come up to that. We'll see the exact lotion of the Alter Rebbe. Lifresh liyes maidav oizev. That he admits it and he leaves it once and for good. You know what it means? Like a smoker, person who smokes, tries to break the habit of smoking. None of you surely smoke, I hope. And don't start. Best way not to marry out is don't go out on the first date.
What? Don't go what?
Don't go out for the first date.
What do you do?
Heaven forbid.
Don't go out.
On the first date. If you don't want to marry a non-Jew, don't go out on a date.
Even for fun. Similarly with smoking,
No.
if you don't want to become a smoker, don't smoke your first cigarette. I don't understand why boys smoke. Because the first cigarettes, you have to train yourself, and it's painful and disgusting and horrible. You choke, you cough, and so why would anybody do it? But they do, and then you want to stop. And you stop. You say, okay, I'm going to stop. But then later in the day, you feel a little bit at a loss. You don't know what to do with yourself. I'll smoke a cigarette, just this one. And then you didn't stop again. And that's how it goes with everything, whether it's your diet or idle talk or, when I used to drive a car, when people drive a car, they get bored. They turn on the radio. The radio is full of junk. You're filling your mind and your heart with nonsense that they're blasting at you the whole time. It's clogging you up. It's like dirt in the valves. And so I used to try not to turn it on, but you're driving a little bit distracted, you turn on. And it's a struggle. And it's the same thing with every negative thing in your life. You have to make a strong resolution. I'm not going to do it. And then you stick with it. But it says the wicked people, they're constantly sliding back. So what do? What should you do? Let's say a person is a smoker. Like my father, Oliver Sholem, was a smoker. So he had a heart attack. He wasn't even 50 years old. He had a huge heart attack. So the doctor said, Mr. Pape, you have to stop smoking. He said, how much do you smoke? He said, I smoke maybe 2 packs a day.
Wow.
So he says, well, you got to cut back. You have to cut back. Now, let's say a person smokes and he smokes on Shabbos. He's not Shabbos observant yet. Instead of smoking 10 cigarettes like he does every day, because it's Shabbos, he'll smoke 8. Those 2 cigarettes he doesn't smoke, he's keeping Shabbos. That's keeping Shabbos. And then if he goes down from 8 to 7, that's keeping Shabbos even more. And little by little, you keep Shabbos more and more and more. In other words, also, doctor what's his name? Resnick, Dr. Resnick. His son gives shiurim online. Raleigh Resnick. Dr. Resnick was the heart doctor. One of the heart doctors took care of the Rebbe when the Rebbe had a heart attack. He was a Baal Tshuva. The Rebbe wanted big things from him. He wanted him to do research. He encouraged him to do research, and he said, "You're going to win a Nobel Prize." That's about one of the only times Rebbe gave a person a bracha that wasn't that I saw that it wasn't materialized. He did not win the Nobel Prize. He passed away, got cancer and passed away. But he was a Baal Tshuva, so he asked the Rebbe, it says in the Tanya that when a person has a particular mission in life, the Yetzer Hara makes it difficult for him. The Yetzer Hara will let a person keep Shabbos and Kashrus and everything, but he's not really here for that reason. I mean, that's the right way to live, but that's not why his soul came down here to this world. Maybe his soul came down here to this world because he owes somebody some money. He borrowed money, he borrowed $1 million from somebody and promised to pay him back, and then he went broke and he didn't pay him back, and the guy suffered the loss. Nobody knew that he owed him the money, and he never got the money back. And now he had to come back into this world and be born and go through life all over again to repay that loan. It can happen. Or maybe he was cruel or abusive to somebody, a colleague, a relative. Maybe he said Lashon Hara on somebody, and because of that, they didn't get a shidduch. Shidduch got broken because he said something nasty, he said something negative to somebody, and therefore the shidduch was broken, and the young man or the young woman was terribly hurt. They really wanted the shidduch to work, and this guy was called for a reference, and he gave a negative reference. Maybe he's got to come back to fix it. Come back and give a positive reference for this person and help him or help her to get through their life. So therefore, we want to do tshuva now and not have to come back to do tshuva later. And that is the power of tshuva, that if we do tshuva now, obviously, if a person takes money, how do you do tshuva? You make a strong resolution not to take money anymore that doesn't belong to you, not to touch money, for instance. You're in your office, money is coming through your office, your desk. Sometimes you need to take a loan from this money. You're not allowed. And you do it, and you know you're not supposed to do it, and you pay it back, and you make a strong resolution, I'm not going to do this anymore, but the tshuva is when you pay it back. And if you didn't pay it back, you may have to come back another incarnation just to pay it back, just to make things right. Okay. And this is the power of tshuva, to make things right all over again. And if a person does a powerful tshuva, he makes things so right that it never happened, like it never happened. If it never happened, like it never happened, that means you don't think about something that never happened. So if you do tshuva on something that you did that wasn't right, but every now and then you think back on it and you enjoy thinking back on the nice time you had doing it, then you didn't do tshuva, because in the world of thought, you're still doing this transgression. You follow my gist?
Yeah.
Gianna, you with me?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes? But so that's how, if a person does tshuva on something, and I heard a video clip that somebody was very concerned about getting married because of things that he had done before he found out about Yiddishkeit and did tshuva. How can he bring all these bad things into his marriage? And the Rebbe said to the parents of the girl who were concerned about their daughter who grew up in a frum home, marrying a Baal Tshuva, and the Rebbe said, since he's a Baal Tshuva, the mitzvahs that he's doing now have wiped away any bad things that he did before. You don't have to worry about them. just for his part, he has to make sure that he doesn't think about them anymore either. Because in thought, you can do everything all over again in the world of thought. That's not good. Okay. In a certain degree, it says in the Tanya, and we're going to the next chapter, that thought is even more serious than action. Because thought is closer to your soul. Okay, so that's the power of tshuva to rectify even the past. Chapter 8, page 127. We've been speaking about food that was prohibited. And the key word here is asur. Asur means tied down by the Yetzer Hara, tied down in the clutches of what we call in the Mashiach times for the children, the Yetzer Hara helpers. They tie this guy up. Anybody read Gulliver's Travels when you were a child? Gulliver comes to the land of the Lilliput, and the Lilliputians are little people, and they tie him up. Those little people, they tie him up with little strings, and he's stuck there like that. So you get tied up by the Yetzer Hara helpers. Even if you didn't know that you were eating something forbidden. You went to a certain house and you ate the food there and you trusted that the person feeding you the meal knew that you were keeping kosher and fed you kosher food, and you ate it and it was good, and you thought you're going to really learn and daven with the energy from this food, and you didn't know that it wasn't kosher. Later he told you it wasn't kosher and he was sick. He was sick over it. But then he didn't know. Leah, question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question about chapters 8. So
What?
One question about chapter 8. So if we have a kosher food, if person eating a kosher food is permissible to satisfy his body, but not for the service of God.
Correct.
It's also elevated in the fact that
Yes, we learned that. We're going to learn it again. That since the food was kosher in the first place, but he didn't eat it in the right way. He ate it, when the word for it in English is gluttonously, just for his appetite. So then that food is schlepped down, dragged down into 3 impure levels of klippa, and his body becomes a garment and a vehicle for these 3 impure levels of klippa, because he ate the kosher food like an animal, not like a Jew. But when he realizes that he's living like an animal and he says, this is not right, I don't want to do this again. I don't want this to be my life. And he does tshuva, then retroactively, that means even from the past, he can elevate that food and the energy in the food goes up with him because it was kosher.
Wow.
We learned in the last chapter, but if the food is asur, it's not kosher, then his tshuva cannot elevate it again, unless he does, like we read last chapter, a very, very deep tshuva from the bottom of his heart. An all-consuming tshuva. So with deep bitterness and regret, he will never eat non-kosher food again. He'll be very, very careful. You know what it means to be very, very careful? There was a chassid. He was killed by the Germans, Yimach Shemam. He was called Rabbi Itcha the Master. He has children, grandchildren in Crown Heights, Gorevich. So he would collect money for the yeshiva. He came to a certain house, a Hasidic house, and they served him an egg. They served him eggs on Shabbos. He wasn't sure if he wanted to eat that egg. He looked at it, he put it aside. He looked at it, he put it aside. He looked at it, he put it aside. For whatever reason, he was having problems feeling that this food was appropriate. Finally, he took a piece of herring from a tin. He took a herring instead. He was struggling with himself the whole time, you see, to make sure that he was eating properly. It's a very hard level of serving Hashem, to eat properly. I told you this story before. I'm going to tell it again. It's a very important story, so listen carefully. In the year 1975, before any of you were born, I was a young man. And in that year, the Rebbe said on the 5th day of Av, which is the yahrzeit of the Arizal that we read about in the Tanya, the 5th day of Av is his yahrzeit. And I was in Israel because I was newlywed. I just married Mrs. Pape. That was a good move. And the Rebbe said that people should go to the resting place of Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, the Arizal. I got on it, and Tzach provided a bus. So good. I happened to be in Kfar Chabad that day, though we lived in the north at that point. We were really newly married. And I happily got on the bus to go visit the Arizal. And I sat beside an American boy. I had met him here during Tishrei in the previous year when I came for Tishrei as a foreign student. I was living not in America at that time. And I met him, and so I knew him. I sat with him, and he told me that he had Yechidus with the Rebbe. And he told the Rebbe in Yechidus that he had taken upon himself, being a good Baal Tshuva who wants to be a tzaddik, he took on himself to fast on Monday and Thursdays to refine his soul and his desires, so he wouldn't eat. And he told the Rebbe that, and he thought the Rebbe would pat him on the back and tell him he's a good Baal Tshuva. Instead, the Rebbe was angry. The Rebbe was very upset with him. How could you do such a thing? So don't you know that it says in Tanya, and it says in holy books, it says in the Talmud, in the more about fasting, you're not allowed to fast except when the community has a fast. Like the day before Purim, it's a community fast. You're not allowed to take upon yourself to fast for two reasons. First of all, you're going to be weak. So you're not going to be serve Hashem with happiness, with joy. And second of all, you probably won't do things that you would have otherwise done because you'd have more energy. And third of all, you're going to feel proud. And pride is disgusting. One of the most disgusting character trait of a person who wants to serve God is to feel proud and arrogant. So now he felt terrible. What did he have to open his mouth for? Why did he have to tell the Rebbe? So the Rebbe saw he was very crestfallen. He said, if you want to continue, sir, to serve Hashem in this direction, I have a suggestion for you. Oh, the Rebbe's going to be nice. So what's the suggestion? When you have a meal, choose the one food, preferably even one that you really like a lot, and leave over one spoonful. That way you'll have the energy from the food to serve Hashem, and you will have controlled your appetite. And he turned to me and he said, you know what? It's easier to fast a whole day than to leave over one spoonful on the plate. Because when you're enjoying that food and there's one little bit left, you don't want to miss it. Okay. So what happens if you ate food that you weren't supposed to eat? It wasn't kosher food, but you didn't do it on purpose. Well, it can have an effect on you. Remember the story of the little boy on Hanukkah who had the soup, and the soup was kosher soup, but anybody who ate at the wedding the food was declared to be not kosher by the Alter Rebbe. And you ate this food for the sake of heaven. This little boy intended to go home and learn Torah. And he succeeded. He went home and he said brachas and he tried to learn Torah, but the energy from the food did not go up into the words of Torah or davening that he said. Not only they didn't go up, but his neshama was dragged down into the realm of the three impure klippas. And similarly, anybody who eats non-kosher food by accident or in circumstances that are improper, like for instance, let's say a person eats kosher food. He knows that there's a great shir going to take place on such and such a day, and he eats a good meal so that he'll have energy to listen to the shir, but he's not really observant, he's not really in tune with everything. So he ate the meal and he went to the shir and found out that it's a fast day. Wasn't supposed to eat at all. So he ate in order to learn, and he learned. But the energy of the food is not going to be involved, not going to be connected with the learning. But if he feels regret, the energy of his regret will become involved with the learning, and that could retroactively save the situation. But this is about a case where he doesn't even know that he ate non-kosher food. And he intended to learn Torah, and he learned Torah. And he intended to daven, and he davened. It says at the bottom of page 127, Ein hayas sheba, the life that's in the food, the life energy in the food, does not oila, does not go up, or mislabeshes, and does not become enclosed. B'tevas and Torah, and the words of the Torah that he's learning, and the prayers that he is saying. Doesn't go up, it stays held down. Because, page 128, harsh words, it is held captive, like you're arrested. The Rabbi Tights from Elizabeth, New Jersey, often went to Russia on secret missions of the Rebbe and others, bringing help to Jewish people who could not get help from outside Russia. And he would travel, he had good connections, he was able to travel and bring with him sidurim and mezuzahs and tefillin and matzahs and so on, and leave them all behind. And one time he was followed all the time. Everywhere he went, he was followed by police. And one day he left the big shul, which nobody talked in the big shul because everybody was spies. And two people grab him from under the arm and throw him into a car and speed him off. And he thinks, what's going to happen to me? Are they going to kill me? Are they going to arrest me? Will I ever get out alive? Turns out they were Hasidim, and they needed him to bring a message. They had questions that only the Rebbe could answer, and they wanted him to take these questions. They had checked him out. They felt he was reliable, and that he had to memorize their names and their questions and go back to ask the Rebbe for advice. And they were sure the Rebbe would give him the answers. Okay, I gotta stop here because the time is up. And I told you the story once before that the answers were found. He had a Tanya with him, and the Rebbe had turned down certain pages of the Tanya, and the 2 pages of the Tanya that he had turned down had answers to both of their questions. Very clear answers. I can finish the story in detail tomorrow. Thank you all for coming. So what did we learn in this class? We learned the power of tshuva. What is tshuva? Tshuva means step number 1, I'm sorry. I wish I'd never done it. Step number 2, I'm never going to do it again. Step number 3, if I did something that needs to be fixed, I'm going to fix it. If I owe someone money, I'm going to pay.
I want to share one thing.